Hey guys, what's going on? Methodical Gamer here. Today I'm bringing you my build for the Bewitched Alonne sword. I'm going to be discussing my personal review of the weapon and some strategies to use for this weapon to utilize the moveset best. First off, you acquire this weapon by trading the soul of Sir Alonne to Weaponsmith own effects. This is a dexterity katana weapon that has a unique moveset similar to the Berserker blade. I leave the sword uninfused because at the regular upgrade path it has an S scaling of dexterity. Under normal infusement, the base stat for this sword is 180 and 80 points into bleed. I'm going to show some stat testing for this sword in a minute here, but I'll go ahead and tell you this weapon has 150 counter damage, so not only is that above excellent, but that's one of the two reasons that I chose to make a build for this sword. The second reason is the moveset, and we'll also get to that in a second here. The last thing to mention before we go on is the most famous moveset, which is the seppuku, the one you saw me do at the very beginning of this fight, where you literally stab yourself with the sword, and I guess it's your blood. It buffs the sword and gives it extra physical damage. I'm just going to show you my stat testing of the R1 that I recorded. I recorded for all the movesets, but I want to show you 2 points with this. With the seppuku buff alone, your attacks are gaining about 150 points each. The last thing to mention is something I ran into by complete accident. I haven't found this info anywhere else, but I discovered this sword's a sweet spot weapon. Alright, now with all the stat testing and damage aside, let's talk about this weapon in actual PvP. First thing to mention is this is not a top tier class weapon. I would rank it personally middle tier, and the same reason that I don't rate it top tier is the same reason that I love the weapon. Automatically, the first thing that catches your eye for this weapon is its unique moveset. Now, being unpredictable is an advantage, but that's not the main key point to this weapon I think FromSoft had in mind. Back in Dark Souls 1, there were things that had strict classifications, and they had strict rules, whether it be weapons, playstyle, builds. It was almost like the high school cliche groups that, they didn't intermingle. It's literally like looking at some of the rapiers and looking at some of the bows. You immediately think of bows always being a dexterity type of weapon, but you look at Dark Souls 2 and they have the Dragon Rider bow, or the same thing for the Red Rust Scimitar. It violates the stat allocation of where you're supposed to upgrade to get the parameters for your weapon. Another way this was violated was in playstyle. There are certain weapons that classify players now as being reactive versus proactive type gamers. This was way different than it was in Dark Souls 1, where the most proactive players were the ones that always scored the kill. So this brings me back to my point of this weapon. This weapon was made with the point in mind that it was a katana that is supposed to be for reactive type of players. These are the type of players that would punish panic rolling or the misuse of a moveset, i.e. spamming, and that's the main focal point of this weapon. So you ask me exactly why do I not rank this weapon top tier? There's several reasons for why I don't. First would be DPS, and second is variety. You want a variety in both attack types like slash thrust. This weapon actually has this, but what it lacks in variety is attack speeds. You want attack speeds that are both quick and slow. That way you can throw off your opponent and capture them on their low frames and high frames when you're wanting to attack. Because this weapon is so good at being a reactive type weapon and all of the movesets tend to that type of playstyle, there is no moveset that's been allocated to more of aggressive players. So every time that I try to take a proactive stance in PvP, I always end up failing. One of the last things I wanted to throw in here was something I've been doing throughout the video. You may see at the very beginning of the match, I start with a life ring plus 3, and I activate the seppuku, and I'm trading to the clearance ring. That way I end up saving some HP when I switch to the ring that I originally intended to have in the first place. Alright guys, that's it for me in the weapon review. Last things to mention is for you guys to try out these combos. Two-handing R1s. You can get your opponent a 2-hit combo if you bait your opponent to come to you. That's the best way to use a lot of the combos of this weapon, specifically that one. One combo specifically you probably see me do throughout the video is the one-handed R1 followed by the one-handed R2. You use the R2 after the opponent rolls from the first attack, and you'll catch them in a pseudo combo. Guys, I hope you enjoyed watching this video. I enjoyed making it. If you learned something, please hit that like and subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. And until next time, play smart and keep on winning.